in search of projects where state assistance will result in construction. Over the months, they have considered hundreds of proposals.
Just as bad. I got minutes all the way from...
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the August 7, 2007 Board of Selectmen Sewer Commissioners meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Madam Chairwoman, all 5 selectmen are present, as is the interim town administrator and the soon-to-be town administrator on Monday. John McAuliffe is present, too.
Thank you. First item on the agenda, is there anyone that wishes to address the board this evening under citizens' participation? Want to come on up? Yep, just come right up, have a seat, state your name, and fire away.
Hi, my name is Doreen Schmidt, and I co-own with my sister a vacant lot of land on Highland Shores Drive. I have a question about our sewer betterment. We filed earlier this year. We found out that the sewer stub was not placed in front of the frontage of our lot. It was placed in front of the frontage of an unbuildable corner lot adjacent to us. We also found out that we weren't splitting the betterment, which Mr. Simmons said usually occurred. We applied for an abatement, or at least we want some, since our lot is buildable, we want some assurance that we'll be able to hook on that stub without any added financial burden to us, since we're the ones paying the entire betterment. We applied for an abatement. Mr. Simmons suggested we do that. It was denied, but it was denied because it was too late, because it was more than the 6 months allotted that we had. But we just became aware through talking to neighbors that the stub wasn't in front of our frontage. So I guess I need some direction here. I feel really uncomfortable that we have a buildable lot of land, but we don't have free and clear access to that stub, and we are paying the entire betterment. And we've already made payments. Come to find out, the adjacent lot, they haven't paid taxes for 10 years. And I feel very uncomfortable with this whole situation. And I guess I need some direction from the board.
So your buildable lot is beside an unbuildable lot, and they put the stub at the unbuildable lot?
Yes. And the Mr. Simmons was very cooperative, and he called the engineer while I was in his office, and the engineer went, "Oh, sorry, we thought it was one lot. Can we get a stub in front of our lot? Can we get an abatement for half of the betterment?"
You know, I perfectly understand your predicament, and I'm sure the board obviously is sympathetic. We cannot intercede on a matter like that.
But you're the sewer commissioner.
We cannot intercede on a matter like that. That's the responsibility of the superintendent, and he will advise us as to what issue or any action we should take, but we can't directly...
Well, then, can I just go back to the question? Actually, I'm going to read you, this is from Mr. Simmons, the final paragraph of his letter to me. The betterment was filed at Plymouth County Registry of Deeds on December 29, 2005, and the application for the abatement was received by the town on April 20, 2007. All abatements must be received within 6 months of the betterment bill, and since your application was received 14 months after the deadline, your request is being denied. If our request is being denied just because of that time frame, we didn't know that the engineers had made an error until February.
I don't mean to cut you off. I understand. It is our long-standing practice and policy that we don't intercede in matters that is his direct responsibility. He needs to advise us, and if he advises us that we need to make a decision with respect to this issue, we certainly will and wouldn't hesitate. But your direct question was, you need direction. The direction is you need to keep it with him, and if he says you need to reapply at a certain time, that's what you need to do. But there's nothing that this board can do tonight.
So this board is basically telling me, as a taxpayer who has paid and who has paid the betterment, at least 2 or 3 bills already, I'm being penalized. And the person who benefits is someone who has not paid taxes for over 10 years.
I'm not telling you anything of the kind. What I'm suggesting here is that excuse me, let me just reiterate again. We're not being difficult. We're not saying we refuse to acknowledge your problem. We're not saying that you don't have an issue, and we're not saying that you're not right. What we're saying, I'm saying, is it's been a long-standing practice and policy of this board that we don't intercede on individual situations without the direct consultation and direction of the superintendent. We're not trying to blow you off, or I'm certainly not. That's our policy.
So I'm going to have to get legal counsel to take this up with Mr. Simmons.
I didn't say that. I said
No.
you need to take it up with Mr. Simmons.
I did, and he didn't answer me. I filed this on April 20th. I called in July because I hadn't heard a word.
Could I ask a question? Were there betterments assessed to both lots? Or
No.
Just your lot?
Just mine, and
you
we don't
the T
have
that
the
hooks
stub.
in. So the other lot that has the hookup doesn't have a betterment?
And they haven't paid taxes for 10 years.
On that, you got to get permission of the owner of the other lot.
An easement or something.
I'm sorry, this is my father. He happened to discover that the stub was not on our frontage.
Well, and I think, and I was going to say in that, I think that it's also is that you had filed, you said you had filed an abatement, that was for the betterment.
Yes, because Mr. Simmons told me that was my course of action.
Okay,
Right.
now that he, yeah, I
Because
was
there's
going to say.
no stub, she
Right,
doesn't
because
have
there's no stub. So I was going to say, now have you addressed that, now that he has sent you that rejection letter?
I
say-
called the office.
All that has happened here is a rejection letter was automatically generated because of the deadline. That's all that's happened here.
Right.
You just missed the deadline. You just need to reapply for it.
No, but,
No, but she doesn't want the
no,
abatement.
but this is
She
not an
wants the
abatement
T
for
to
the
be in her
sewer
yard.
usage.
I
This is
either
for the
want an
betterment.
abatement or I want free and clear access to that stub.
Or
Right.
your own stub would be even better, would be my
Yes, it
suggestion.
would.
There's a reasonable remedy here, I think,
Of
is what
course there
Mr.
is.
Savageau was trying to say, is that but
I understand it, and when I talk to Mr. Simmons, he's helpful, and he gives me all of this information, and then says his hands are tied.
Right.
And then I call the sewer commission, and it was like the only way I could actually, if we come face to face and just,
We can
I
follow
need-
up with Mr. Simmons. I
Of
can
course.
ask him where
Well,
he
that's-
Mr.
stands.
Simmons, right.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what I was going to say, is that, as Mr. Savageau said, that letter, it's a form letter, and that any betterments that were put on, yeah,
so
they are
it's
6
reasonable
months.
for me to go and ask to have a stub placed in front of my frontage.
I think that that's the remedy, of course, because you don't really need an abatement. You want a stub.
Right.
Exactly.
So if you simply applied for an abatement, you got the form letter back that said, sorry, it's too late for us to give you an abatement. What needs to happen is a discussion between you and Mr. Simmons about the fact that there's no stub. And if you've had that conversation with him, then he needs to bring it to us as a sewer commissioner so
And
we
as
can
soon as he
come up
does,
with a
why in
remedy.
the world would we
Right.
have a problem with that?
I don't know.
Well, I do know, we wouldn't.
We
Okay.
wouldn't.
No,
There's
I
a
would say,
reasonable remedy.
You want, I would say, if,
Yeah, I can
Mr.
follow up with Dave
Foster-
Simmons, but I didn't get your address.
The address of the lot would be 75 Highland Shores Drive.
I'll follow up with Mr. Simmons.
yeah.
Thank you.
And Mr. Foster is, he's in Town Hall, in the Treasurer Collector's Office, and he can get back to you on,
I'm
what
sure
Mr.
this
Simmons
problem
says.
will be resolved. There's no
Right.
doubt in my mind that this will be resolved to your satisfaction.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming and calling it to our attention.
Sure, come on up.
This is great.
Hi, how are you this evening?
Good evening, very good.
Good.
I direct this to
Um,
Mr. Savage.
I'm sorry,
No.
could you please state your name for the record, and it's really to the board.
Okay, my name is Bill Whitehouse,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess I'll direct this question to the board. I occasionally covered these meetings as a news reporter in the early 70s, and as I recall, the sewer commissioners are an elective post that no one wanted. So the selectmen of the time and ever since took over.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, as sticklers for the rules, will you schedule elections for the sewer commissioners?
Okay, I believe that the town voted in I don't have the exact date, but I believe the town voted